Our Story Productions presents On the Road to Our Story, featuring a variety of programs that take a closer look at the organizations, businesses, and people located in the small communities of the Midwest. So get ready, for you're about to travel on the road to our story. Welcome to Making a Difference. I'm Al Travis. I'm your host today. What we're going to do is moderate a debate between the two folks who want to be Martin County Sheriff. We have the incumbent Sheriff Jeff Marquardt. Thank you very much for coming on the program today. And Officer Jamie Blease, thank you for coming in. He is the challenger. Let's get to know the guys a little bit better. Start off with me. What's your background, your history? Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Jeff Marquardt, and I am your Martin County Sheriff. I was born and raised here in Martin County. I'm involved with the family farm for over 30 years. Married for over 28 years with my wife, Sherry, and we have 2 children and 2 grandchildren.
How old are your children, and give us a little background there?
Both graduates from Martin County West, 25 and 27, and 2 grandchildren. One is 8 months and the other one just turned 3.
Good for you. All right, Jamie, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm Jamie Blease. I've been a police officer for the city of Fairmont for the last 11 and a half years. Married to my wife, Molly, of 16 years. We have 3 daughters. 9th grade, 6th grade, and 4th grade is where they're at right now in school. Prior to becoming a law enforcement officer, I graduated from Wartburg College in Waverly, Iowa. I had a degree in religion and youth ministry with a minor in Spanish, and spent 5 years full-time working as a youth director at a church in Red Wing, Minnesota, before pursuing my career in law enforcement and moving here working full-time with the Fairmont Police Department.
All right, let's talk relevant history background, your resume. Where'd you go to law officer school? Where give us your background?
Worthington Community College is where I went to do my police school, and I've been an employee only with the Martin County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, really? Your entire tenure? And how many years have you been there?
12 years.
12 years, and it's all been here?
Yes.
All right. How about yourself? Where did you go to get your badge? And
Rochester Community and Technical College. I had a 4-year degree in the religion and youth ministry, and then had to go back to get the law enforcement certificate that Minnesota allows people with 4-year degrees to do to get certified in law enforcement, and been doing that. Well, my first full-time experience then was with Fairmont starting back in April 2003.
So you as well, this has been your place?
Right, I've been here full-time since April 2003, yeah.
All right, let's start on this side as far as being the sheriff. You've got 1 term under your belt. Tell us what maybe or maybe didn't surprise you about being that sheriff. I mean, was it exactly what you thought it was going to be when you got the job?
It was quite familiar to what I was expecting. 2 years prior to being sheriff, I was chief deputy, so I had the day in and day out experience of operating and running the place.
So there's no big surprises when you got in there?
Not really any big surprises. It's more of a community-based job. It's a business. We have to remember that it's more of a business than just a job.
But you end up with a lot of bosses. I mean, county commissioners. I mean, you all instantly have many people that you all of a sudden have to answer for. That's
right. And that's where sometimes I say we're handcuffed ourselves in a lot of things that we can do and we can't do with the state also.
We'll get to some specific initiatives that you want to bring up. But what makes you want to be the sheriff? And I say that 11 years you've been in the police department, and Fairmont being the biggest city in the county, I mean, you're not going after different criminals. What makes you want to be sheriff?
Well, my whole life, since I've graduated from college, has been dedicated to public service. Working full-time as a youth director for 5 years at a church. During that time is when Columbine happened, and Red Wing, Minnesota, where I lived at the time with my wife, had a school resource officer position. They had actually two police that worked in the schools. And I remember as a young youth director thinking, you know, the youth ministry profession that I was in was wonderful, but where do I want my career to go, and how can I help serve people in a way that maybe fits my adult skill set? And I just remember feeling strongly called with my background to work as a school resource officer, as a police officer. I was fortunate when I was hired for the Fairmont Police Department in 2003 that within about a year I was able to work into the school resource officer position here. And through that position, I've been able to connect in some big picture ways with not just the people in the school district, but also agencies throughout the county, including Human Services and other agencies throughout the county, and groups of people that work to try to make the community that we live in a better place.
So what gets you to wanting to be the sheriff instead of doing that with what you're doing? You sound like you're enjoying that and you're getting lots of, what makes that next step?
I love what I'm doing, and I just see opportunity to try to help Fairmont and Martin County continue to improve. And I believe that the training and experience that I've had and the connections that we've made in Fairmont and in Martin County transfer over very well to prepare me for the sheriff's position.
You have been the sheriff, so you know what it takes. Yeah. Why do you want to do it? I gotta be honest. Hey, guy out here, I don't see. It seems like all you get is jabbed at all the time. You're always too much money spent. Not enough. Why? Why does someone want this spot?
I look at it as I enjoy what I do every day. Okay. I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy giving back to the community. It's a great way to give back to the community. When I was on the fire department, it was it's strictly volunteer. You give everything back, and it goes back to our the oath that we take, to serve and protect. And I really think that's all of it right there.
All right. We can get into some specifics before we've got to go to breaks. What I'd like to start with you is maybe you can tell me in the last 4 years, one or two of the highlights. What do you think are things that prove you've done a good job or you're happy with what happened?
Okay. We've got a mass notification system today that is so much better than the one that we've had in previous years. It also gives every resident in Martin County an opportunity to have a weather alert on their cell phone. And with 20 to 22,000 people in the county, that gives, I'm looking at approximately 15,000 cell phones in the county that can get an alert whenever there's bad weather out there if they want.
What's that called? And do folks know about that? I mean, do you just, my phone's going to ring and it's just answer it and it's a weather alert, or do I got to do something?
No, it's a mass notification system that is called Code Red, and it's right on the Martin County Sheriff's Office website. You just click on it and it'll walk you through step by step how to sign up. If you have a landline phone, that phone number should already be in effect, and but if you want to sign up with your cell phones, you can do that also. And
that's an initiative you started. I mean, this is relatively new.
Yes.
I haven't heard about it, so it is relatively. Yep, that's very cool.
It's about 3 years into it.
All right, and then I was reading the paper. You've done some remodeling, so you put in some wainscoting or something, and that's really.
Yep. What we did was the window up at the Law Enforcement Center when you come up to get some reports or crash report or any other type of thing, there was a wall that you got to look at when you came up there. There was no one there. And we took that wall out. We moved our dispatch to a more quieter area so that they can do their job better back there. We moved our records people and also the Fairmont Police Department's records people out to the window, so it's more accessible and easier for people to use.
Okay. They're going to send me the break, and we'll get to your 3-point power plan. Let me ask you this, just real quick before we go to break. People safer now than they were 4 years ago?
I believe they are, yes.
All right. Good. That's a good answer. We'll be back right after this with Making a Difference. We're going to find out about Mr. Bleese's 3-point plan and much more next.
Get ready, because just when you thought you'd gotten the cockleburs out of your overalls, they're now on TV. That's right, this is one weed you won't want to pull. The Cocklebur Morning Show, with hosts who deliver a mix of news, entertainment, and information about the communities throughout our story country. Now on this station and the web. Get ready, because now you can see a late-night talk show filmed in front of a discerning yet agreeable studio audience. Split Hoof tonight. Cousin John and his incomparable sidekick, Earl Silo, interview a roster of guests who make appearances that you won't want to miss. Now on this station and the web.
Welcome back to Making a Difference. We're talking with the sheriff's candidates for Martin County Sheriff. We have with us Sheriff Jeff Marquardt and the challenger, Officer Jamie Bleese. And again, thank you very much for watching. We went to break. talking about, and I mentioned you have a 3-point plan.
Yes.
That you think differentiates you from Sheriff Mark Ward. Patrol hours. Tell me what the issue is and how you can make it better.
Right. The first point of my 3-point action plan is 24-hour on-duty patrol. Currently in the Sheriff's Office, the only people that are working and awake on duty are the dispatcher, the 911 operator, and the jailers. Right now, between the hours of 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., we have one deputy that's on call at their house with a take-home squad car. But if that deputy that's on call is at home in the Ceylon area, and the emergency call between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. is northeast of Truman, the response time is going to be at least a half an hour. It takes a few minutes to get up and get going. Maybe you got to put your contacts in, put your duty belt on, and get out the door. As a police officer that has been called out before, it's a minimum of 5 minutes before you are actually ready to drive. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the mileage that you need to cover. And so the current setup really creates a safe haven for people that are wanting to hurt an average citizen to have a response time that is a half hour or longer. The type of calls that we deal with in the 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. time, I'm familiar with them because I've worked overnight night shifts on the weekends each of the last 12 summers. And we're talking about calls that are get here now type of calls, heart attacks, burglaries, car crashes, one vehicle rollovers, things like that. And it's just very important for us, I believe, as a sheriff's office to make sure that we have a deputy that's awake, dressed, ready to go, and ready to roll to that emergency immediately, just like any other time of the day.
All right, we're going to get his 3 points out, then we'll discuss, all right? The other one was radio coverage.
Right. We switched over to the Armor radio system. It's a digital radio. Many people watching probably know about that time when we switched over. It was the same time when your cable TV needed to get a different box because of narrow banding. We've been dealing with the same thing in law enforcement, needed all new radios. The signal strength and the way the signal wave works is a little bit different. And because of that, we have some issues with radio reception in key areas that are near and dear to my heart. One of them is the Fairmont Elementary School. In the offices and in the preschool hallway behind the main office, our radios do not work well enough. And so in some points in those hallways and those offices, they don't work at all. And that, to me, would be my top priority, is to work with people in the community and find funding sources to install signal boosters in that school to make sure that it's working, so when a police officer keys the mic on his shoulder, he's able to speak directly with other officers or the dispatcher, and the same with fire. They key the mic and people hear them.
Okay. And your last point, reaching out?
Right, it kind of goes with the other two. Cooperation, communication, teamwork. Want to make sure that we are informing the public about what's going on. I think it's important for the public to know if they have a deputy that is there to help them immediately or not. I think it's important for our public to know that this radio system that we've switched over to, for a lot of reasons that are out of our control, we have some kinks we need to work out, and we need to let them know that it's going to be a priority for us to make it work and make it work well. And cooperation, communication, teamwork starts with, I believe, a different leadership style where the sheriff is out front talking with people right away, and when we realize we have a problem. These radios in the school system haven't worked for nearly 2 years, and that's something that I think we should be out front with as a sheriff. Okay. And I just really think that the type of leadership style I would bring would be one where instead of talking about, well, we'll get to that when we get to it, or it's going to cost this much money to fix, let's go out and work together and find ways we can fund this to fix it, to make it work, and let's make it a priority and do it on a timeline where we're keeping people safer sooner. Okay,
so you've heard his 3 points, the three things running. Let's you and I discuss.
Sure.
The patrol hours.
Yep.
Between 4 and 7? Was it 4 and 7?
Sometimes
I will say that for the safety of the public, that there are hours during the day that we do not have someone patrolling. And I can tell you that through the stats over the past 10 and a half years, that averages less than one call per week during the time that we are paying officers to be on call.
The radio coverage thing, I presume why it doesn't work, some bricks in the building, got it. But if we're just talking hallways and stuff like this, how much money does it cost? And are we just trying to avoid something that, how often is there a problem in that hallway that a police officer is there anyway? I mean, is that what we're talking about? I mean, to fix it is are we fixing a problem we don't have?
I think when you said if there's only a problem every once in a while or very seldom, I think that's an important issue too, because that once in a while is a big deal. But we do have workarounds. The state does recognize that there are going to be problems, that the radios won't work in all places.
How often is the officer calling for help in that hallway? I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Are we presuming if a really bad incident happened, obviously we'd like to be able to call and you can't get to the end of the hallway? I mean,
but beside that, let's say that there never is, except for that one day.
One time you need it.
That one day that we need something. Now, we have to also recognize that someone has to be there at that time. We do have a workaround, and the state does recognize that there's a problem. So they've given us opportunities with these radios that we carry to be able to talk outside of the building to other officers. They can't talk to dispatch. So if there's an incident there and we set up an incident command, I mean, every department has to have protocols. Okay. What's your protocol when you have a fire even? Do everybody just run in, or do you talk about it for 30 seconds before you go?
So I'm getting the feeling this issue you think is pretty much handled?
It is.
Okay, and you're saying, hey, we can handle this better.
When the state tells you there's a workaround, that means something doesn't work and they're trying to work around it to make it sound good.
All right.
And the short story is this. If you have a police officer that gets called to our school or just shows up, we have police officers that stop in at the school all the time, not just me. We have deputies that go to have lunch with their kids at school on a regular basis. We have police officers that do the same thing. More and more now, in my experience at school, is parents a lot of times fight their custody battles right at the school, and we don't know when that's going to happen. And as a school resource officer, I've been in my office with my Mark squad car in the horseshoe of the high school, and people still decide they want to have an argument that can get dangerous quick, even though there's presence at the school. So my point is this. If I'm at the elementary school having lunch with the kids, and I come out into that hallway on my way back into the office to come out, which is exactly where the radios aren't working, and I see an adult male about ready to assault the principal, that workaround won't do me any good, because when I key my microphone, I won't be able to talk to dispatch and say, I need help.
Well, let me ask you this.
So it's not a workaround if it doesn't work.
What your fix is, what would it cost for you? I presume if the high school's like that in the elementary school, I presume the hospital, because it's big brick buildings, I presume that's got one. There's got to be the new water treatment. I just presume there's plenty of places that this is an issue. So what's the cost of fix?
It's not an infinite number of places, okay? But right now, what we're trying to do, myself and a couple of administrators from the police department have met with Alpha Wireless within the last month or so to try to get options from them about how to handle this.
Are we talking millions, or are we talking hundreds?
No, we're not talking millions, but there's different options, okay? One at the school would be to put an antenna on the roof, coax cable down to signal boosters that are mounted into the ceiling. And then they're called BDAs, bidirectional amplifiers. They push out a signal that's repeated, so our radios work just like we're standing outside. Okay. We did that at the law enforcement center. The patrol area where we type our reports at the law enforcement center, our radios didn't work. Within about 2 months, the sheriff got things set up for us so that the radios would work. But when we have a building with 1,000 kids in it and the radios don't work, that should be the same, if not a higher priority.
The reaching out comment.
Yep.
You don't like reaching out? You don't talk to other people?
We do.
You do?
We do.
Okay.
We even have trainings.
Oh, really? Okay.
And back to this radio thing.
Okay.
We have had trainings with this, and each department has got to have a protocol on how they're going to do this. You know, whether if the radio doesn't work, and I know that, I have to know that I can use my cell phone. There are other options to get help there. So
my question is it acceptable then for a police officer in the elementary school, if he ends up having to square off with an angry parent or teenager with a weapon, for me to say, time out, angry person, I need to get my cell phone out and dial 911 like a common citizen? When I'm elected sheriff, if I key that microphone or an officer keys that microphone, dispatch will hear them. And to me, that is paramount for safety in Martin County. Paramount for our kids, paramount for our teachers, and paramount for our police officers and our firefighters. Anything less is unacceptable. And if we're talking about finding funding, just throughout my campaign, speaking with the superintendent about this, just for an example, schools come across funding streams yearly, where they say, well, how can we use this funding stream to the best of our abilities? They have health and safety dollars, which is a totally different thing than their general fund. And at one of the Rotary meetings I met with people. One gentleman approached me about the Martin County Foundation. They give money to nonprofit organizations all the time, but they also earmark money that they can give to public safety. I know they just gave the Ceylon Fire Department $9,000. That's a fairly small fire department. This guy looked me in the eye and said, if you're looking for money, what's it going to cost? $50,000 for an antenna and 2 signal boosters? You know, they can help us out. We could also lead the way by doing some fundraisers. Parents want their kids safe, and so the idea is to lead the way.
Well, let me ask, is that the sheriff's department's job? I only ask this in that if the school's got a problem that they can't protect their students because they don't have the ability to, would that not be a school issue?
Typically,
they pay for the booster?
Typically, the sheriff's office or the county does not pay for non-governmental enhancements.
Infrastructure.
Right. So if Hy-Vee wanted to have something, the sheriff's office or the county wouldn't pay for something for Hy-Vee to be able to talk out on their cell phone or talk out on the radio. So there is some responsibility that goes back to the businesses.
My question is do these businesses know that their radios don't work there? And if they do know, who told them? And then lastly, if it's their responsibility, do they know? And if they do know it's their responsibility, has anyone worked with them to explain to them what the costs of those are going to be and how to get a contractor ready to set that up?
He brings up, how long have we had the new radios?
Approximately 2 years.
Yeah.
Have we kind of wandered around when you're in Hy-Vee, gave it a click to see? Have we done kind of a testing to see? Because it's a good point. I would have no idea if you're in the egg section of Hy-Vee whether you can make
and that's
a call.
a good point, because I was nominated the local system administrator for the radio. The county purchased the radios for all of the fire departments, for everybody that has a radio. Public Works, everybody. And we gave them training the very day that they got their radios. And we told them that these radios are not going to work in every place. So go out and test them. Come back to us and tell us where there's problem areas. And as of, I looked at the email this afternoon, and it was the 4th of September, this month, was the first time that as the system administrator, that I received any information back that we've asked for.
Okay.
So
I mean, is it a distance thing too, or is it literally just kind of the construction is a problem? When you're the far outside edges of the county, those radios still work? I mean, it isn't.
Absolutely. You know, you get out here by the Dairy Queen and by Hawkins, and you'll draw off the Blue Earth Tower.
Al, I'm going to stop you. Okay, the September 4th date is simply not true. My opponent says that he has not had any communication from anybody about radio signal strength. I don't want to get into semantics about dates, but in the photo press it says October or August 21st. Now he's saying September 4th. What I'm trying to explain is that when, as a school resource officer that's clearly fired up about this issue, the first thing I did when I got my radio is I turned it on, pushed the button, checked the signal strength all around. When I did that and I brought it forward through our chain of commands that we have to follow, it was turned in, okay? And then through communication with the sheriff's office, they sent their contractor down to verify my numbers. And I walked with the contractor from Alpha Wireless and showed him exactly what I was doing, and he verified all my numbers. That was last year in February. So the numbers were given to the sheriff's person. What we have to understand here is it's two different styles of leadership. If the contractor that does the work for us to install the boosters was sent to go talk with me and follow me through the school to verify the work that I've already done, and this is just in the school area, okay? Mm-hmm. And when I call out at the school and I say, I'll be at the school, my radio doesn't work well here, and when our sheriff has his radio on and hears these things, I just believe that the type of leadership style I would bring to the sheriff's office would be, hey, we know there's a problem, let's see what we can do to fix it. Instead of waiting and for that one special email or that one piece of paper that may or may not have been delivered to the right person. And the bottom line is we've been working in good faith trying to communicate the problem to the local system administrator, who is my opponent, and we haven't gotten any solid leadership as to how to come to solutions.
And as I'm listening, I believe you're saying that this isn't as big a problem as that we have workarounds for everything that's there now.
We're still working on this. I mean, we've been working on this from the day we got the radios. And again, until I was never given, the system administrator, whether Mr. Officer Blease gave the information to his admin or whoever, but they have never brought it to me. On the 21st of August, I received it actually from the vendor who said, you know, as system administrator, you should have this information. So I just got it on the 21st. But the police department did not give me that information until I asked for it again on the 4th of September.
I think as people...
That's where the communication breakdown is, that they're not communicating with the system administrator.
I'm going to pretend I'm the Joe average guy out there. The information you've gotten, can you summarize it? Are there hundreds of places that this is an issue? Is it tens of places? Is it 1, 2 places?
There are places in the school that there's an issue.
So school's one. If I count, the school's got issues.
Yep.
How many other buildings or how many other places do you know, like valleys or whatever it would be?
Maybe a dozen, but I want to tell you now that it's the same places that we had problems with the old radios. But those radios, everyone got along fine with. But they knew that they had bad places. There's places in the county with the old radios that you didn't dare make a traffic stop on because you couldn't get out on your radio. So you waited to go another mile or two down the road.
All right, we're going to end up having to wrap up the show. So we're going to come back after this break. We'll hear the final words from both these candidates next on Making a Difference.
Get ready, because now you can watch a full of fun daytime talk show that shares the latest and greatest news about the people, places, and events found all over our story country. The Women of Sweet Swine County, hosted by 3 sassy ladies that tell small town stories with big town attitude. Now on this station and the web.
Welcome back to Making a Difference. Al Travis with the 2 candidates for Martin County Sheriff, Sheriff Jeff Marquardt and Officer Jamie Blease. Gentlemen, probably got just enough time for each of you to take a look into the camera. Give the folks out there your reason why they should vote for you, and I'll start with you, Sheriff.
4 years ago, Martin County residents put their trust in me to be their sheriff. And with your vote on November 4th, I will continue to make this a great county to live in, a safe county to live in, and a great county to have recreation in and raise your families in. Thank you for your support.
Officer Blease, if you look right into that camera and give me the reason they should vote for you.
First of all, thank you for putting this on for us, and I'd like to thank Our Story Studios for having us here. My 3-point action plan describes exactly what I want to accomplish in my first term as sheriff. The first one is 24-hour on-duty patrol. We need to make sure that we have at least 1 deputy awake, ready to go to respond to these get here now calls that occur between the hours of 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. A call at 4:30 in the morning is just as important as a call at 4:30 in the afternoon. Secondly, the radios that we have are excellent equipment. We need to make sure that they are doing the job to keep police officers, firefighters, emergency responders, and especially our children, students, and teachers safe. And right now, that has not been a priority, and when I'm elected, that will be my top priority. And then last is cooperation, communication, and teamwork. One of the biggest things I want to do as a law enforcement, chief law enforcement officer of the county, as a sheriff, would be to make sure that our firefighters, our local police departments, and our local city councils feel supported by the office of the sheriff. And by doing that, the way I would do that would be to get to these meetings on a regular basis, listen to the issues that they have, ask them if they have needs that we can help them with, whether it be with funding or helping them secure equipment to help them do their job in a way that will keep everybody safe and will support the work that the sheriff's office does. So those are 3 big reasons why I'm running for office, and I would appreciate your vote on November 4th.
All right, I'd like to say thank you very much to both Sheriff Jeff Marquardt and Officer Jamie Blease for coming in and doing this. I thank you for watching. This is Making a Difference. I want to thank Our Story Productions and Gemini Studios for putting this whole thing together. I'd like to thank the studio audience, which was a surprise to me because I cannot believe people come to watch this live. This is fabulous. So thank you. I want to remind everybody to vote November 4th. It's important. See you again next time on Making a Difference.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for joining us as we travel on the road to our story.